Try to imagine a familiar evening in your kitchen.
It's even better than I imagined.
You've just finished cooking a plate of hot pasta. Butter is melting across the surface. A pinch of salt has already been sprinkled evenly. And everything looks so perfect that you're almost certain dinner will be delicious. But when you take a bite, something makes you pause. The dish isn't bland, and it certainly isn't bad. Yet there's a strange feeling, as if the painting has been completed but is missing the very last brushstroke. You open the spice cabinet and check each jar one by one. The salt is still there.
You know how he gets
The chili powder is still there. The dried garlic hasn't gone anywhere. But the pepper jar is gone. Not just empty in your kitchen. Imagine it has vanished from the entire world. It may sound a little dramatic, because pepper is such a small spice that most of us sprinkle onto food almost without thinking. Yet the interesting thing is that if pepper had never existed, human history might actually look quite different. That tiny grain did more than just make food taste better. For centuries, it was powerful enough to push people across oceans, build vast trade empires, and even reshape the map of the world. To understand why pepper mattered so much, we have to begin with the sensation on your tongue. Inside peppercorns is a compound called piperine. And although the name sounds like something from a laboratory, its role is surprisingly easy to understand. Piperine is what gives pepper its signature spiciness. But here's the interesting part, it doesn't work the same way as capsaicin, the compound found in chili peppers. When you eat chili, the sensation often feels like your tongue is being burned. Capsaicin activates pain receptors in your mouth, which is why spicy food can feel fiery and intense. Pepper works differently. Piperine produces a gentle warmth that spreads gradually, more like a soft wave of heat than a sudden burst of flame. But the real magic of piperine isn't just the mild heat. It actually makes your taste receptors more sensitive to other flavors. In simple terms, pepper acts like a sharpness dial for food. When pepper is present, the saltiness of salt becomes clearer. The richness of butter or olive oil feels fuller. And even simple ingredients like boiled vegetables seem more aromatic. If you imagine a dish as a piece of music, pepper isn't just another instrument. It's the thing that raises the volume of the entire orchestra. That's why, in a world without pepper, food could still be good. But it would be missing a layer of depth that we usually experience without ever noticing.
As the sun
Now let's rewind
over
time
the
about
fields.
1,000 years. In medieval Europe, pepper was not something you could casually buy in a supermarket or find on the table at every restaurant. It was a luxury so valuable that many people referred to it as black gold. The reason was simple: distance. Pepper primarily grew in India and certain tropical regions of Asia, while Europeans were deeply fascinated with its flavor. For a single peppercorn to reach a European dining table, it had to travel an astonishing distance of tens of thousands of kilometers. From farms in India, pepper was first transported to coastal ports. There it was loaded onto trading ships that crossed the Indian Ocean toward the Middle East. Arab merchants would buy the spice and sell it again to Venetian traders, who controlled much of the spice trade entering Europe. From Venice, pepper continued its journey, spreading across the entire continent. Every time it changed hands, the price rose a little higher. Imagine a single product passing through 10 different merchants, each adding a small margin of profit. By the time it finally reaches the consumer, its price may be many times greater than it was at the beginning. This is precisely why, for many centuries, even a small pouch of pepper could make a trader wealthy almost overnight. The city of Venice even built an entire commercial empire by controlling the spice routes. Yet when other nations witnessed that immense wealth, they began asking a bold question: if they could travel directly to the source of pepper in Asia, they would no longer have to depend on Venice. That question helped ignite one of the most adventurous chapters in human history, the age of ocean exploration. In 1498, the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama discovered a sea route around the Cape of Good Hope in Africa that led to India. In textbooks, this story is often told as a grand tale of curiosity and discovery. But when you look more closely at the true motivations behind the journey, something rather interesting appears. Spices, especially pepper, were among its most important objectives. Once a direct maritime route was opened, European nations quickly joined the race for spice. Commercial empires began to emerge. The East India Companies were founded, and large fleets of ships repeatedly crossed the oceans to bring spices back to Europe. Ports became busier than ever. New trade routes were drawn onto maps.
Let me grab that for you. We need to hurry.
Wars even
thank you,
broke
dear.
out
That's very
simply
kind.
to gain control of spice-producing regions. If pepper had never existed, or had never been valued so highly, many of these great expeditions might not have happened as early as they did. The map of the world might have been drawn much more slowly, and some global trade routes might have appeared far later. So if one day pepper were to disappear from the world, our meals would continue. Cuisines would still survive, and people would certainly find other ways to make food taste better. But what would vanish would not be merely a spice. We would also lose a piece of history tied to ships crossing vast oceans, daring merchants, and trading empires built upon tiny black grains. It is strange to think that something so small, no larger than the tip of a fingernail, could help drive some of humanity's greatest journeys. And the next time you twist a pepper grinder at the dinner table, remember that you are not simply adding flavor to your food, you are touching a small fragment of history that stretches back thousands of years. Seen in that light, the pepper jar in your kitchen is not merely a seasoning, but almost like a tiny time machine, reminding us that sometimes the smallest things can leave the greatest marks on the story of our world.